Shut up and sit down.
Hello gang, Colin here, Festa 67's workshop, and welcome to part 12 of the Death Race Mustang build. And it's Frankenstein's Mustang, as you can see. And I've started a bit of weathering on it, but before I go any further, I think it needs a home. So, I think we'll quickly knock up a diorama base for it to sit on, so that I can start then figuring out what bits of dirt and detritus and accessories are going to accentuate this build. So I'm going to sort of have it at a jaunty angle and have something up in the left there, probably empty barrels, tyres, scrap. And then I've got the discs to go in that are activated in the film. And then obviously a road surface, and I might come round the sort of back L shape with some like wrought iron corrugated building fronts and viewing windows and other things. I don't know. I need to scratch my head and have a think on where I want to go with it. But I kind of want it to tell a story and capture the moment when Frankenstein got out of the car for the first time and that. So I'll just put the Mustang to one side. Actually, I might move that in a sec because it's, yeah, I'll just move that to one side like so. And I've got a little A3 Amazon pack, or an A4 even, and I've cut out a bit of foam and some shelf strip edges just to get an idea of building almost like a road base, raise it up and then clad it with the wood. And then probably by the end of this episode I'll start the priming. I'll see how the foam reacts to primer, but I'll probably end up giving it a couple of coats of primer, and then I might coat it with some PVA before I then airbrush everything. So I'll start off with the hairy stick and then see how it soaks in, and then come back at it all with the airbrush. So this is just a piece of packing foam that came with my 3D printer curing station. And I'm just going to hot glue bits and bobs on there, just so that I can stick it to the piece of cardboard and start building up the base. So I'll just blob on some hot glue and then I'll press this all into place. Apologies for the white balance. I'll just pop that on reasonably straight and give it a bit of a press. And again, I've got to trim some edges and that, and yeah, so we'll just have a quick look, make sure that it's gluing in place, and then I can just trim that front face now to match the packet there. So it says A3 on the back there, so by powers of deduction then it must be A3. That means that mat's an A3 cutting mat. Anyway, rambling. So just scoot along there with me knife of goodness and get that off and out of the way. And that should then give me a reasonably decent depth to start cladding with some wood strip. So just raise the edges up on the frame, because I've got the plaques to go on there describing what the build is, etc. So just gives a little surface for them to sit on that just looks a bit neat and tidy. So just have a look just to see what my measurements are like. I've done rough cuts on these wood strips just to shorten them down, and then I'll probably just do a bit of judicious final trimmage now that the foam's glued on. It's that old adage, measure twice, cut once. It's easier to cut a little bit off the wood than it is to add it on. So just have a quick check, scribe a line up along the side with my pencil, and we'll get the saw out, I think, and trim them down. Just put that back on the bench so that viewers can see what you're up to. Yeah. Happy days. So we've got my scribe line on there, so I'll just run that along the side there, like that. And then we'll get the saw out. Yeah. So we'll just have a little bit of a choppy pops along the side there. And trim that piece off. And then we'll glue this to the side of the foam, just to give it a bit of a cladding around the edges, and this will be painted black at the very end, but I shall leave it in primer whilst I'm doing the dio, and then probably black the frame up at the very last stage, and then we'll do all the sanding once the frame begins to start taking shape. I'll just quickly check that that fits. Sorry I'm off shot, folks, it's just I've got my magnifier on just so that I can see what I'm doing, and all I'm doing is holding the piece of wood against the foam just to check, and then I can run some hot glue along there, and then we can adhere these bits and pieces to the bit of foam. I need to declutter my bench a little bit. I've got quite a few builds on the go, as you can see, scattered around, and yeah, it will let me do this on the bench then without breaking bits of models. So apologies, but I'll have a bit of a clear up for the next episode. And we'll just press fitting this on with hot glue at the moment. Get that sorted and get it in place. And then we can have a bit of a fettle then. So I'll get a bit of judicious sawing done on this bit and get that done. And I don't normally saw that fast. We can just have a bit of a joinage now on some of these bits and bobs, a couple of them on. And then we can now start looking at the longer strips and seeing how they work out for joining up on there. So I just want to cut a little piece just to fill that gap in there because the foam's a little bit off. I'll get my scissors out and trim that, and I can glue that in because there's a bit of a gap between the foam and the edge there, and although it's going to be covered with the road surface, I still would prefer it to be supported. So I'm using Mitre Bond, which is a two-part glue to join the wood together. I'm running hot glue on the foam, and then I'm putting Mitre Bond on the corners, and you get a super glue bottle and an activator pen, and you just run a little bit along the edge, whack the activator pen on it, press and hold it together, hence why it's at this angle, and then the Mitre Bond all bond the mitres into place, and it is pretty rapid stuff. Just move the paddy wagon to one side because I'm worried that I'm going to knock it. So we'll knock that out of the way, like so. And then we'll put some hot glue, like I said, on the foam and the Mitre Bond on the edges of the wood. Just along there, like so. And that's the piece that will join to the butt end of the side pieces. And then we'll scoot a bit of hot glue on, and then we'll run the activator on the uprights on the side pieces. That'd be the theory anyway. So we'll slather a bit of that along there. Might need a persuasionary push with the next glue stick, we'll see. Oh no, there was enough. And then quickly whop the activator on that edge. And do a bit on the other edge. Like so. And then we can press these pieces into place. Just along them edges. Like that. And just hold that in situ. Now, it's pretty rapid stuff, this mitre bond, so bear that in mind if you do decide to use it. It is pretty much, as soon as you've got the activator on there, it will grab. But for stuff like this, you know, it lets you really knock your build together pretty rapidly, so you can do your dio frame pretty quickly. So I'm just putting the base with a bit of hot glue just to bring that back against the foam on them edges. And then I can start working out the underside of the trim pieces that will then support the card base, the foam insert, etc. So I've got that to put on now. So I'll just have a quick look to see how they start to line up. I'll do a dry fit and then we can come back at them and start putting in the front and the sides. I'll do one of each at first just to work the distance out of the overhang. I'll just put this little splinter in that's knocked off the corner there on the frame. Gets that out of the way like so. That's in there, and then put that away for now and have a looky-loo at what I've got left. And I should have 4 pieces now that have got a 45 mitre. So let's have a looky-loo to see what the overhang is going to be. Now I think it'll go about half the width of these strips as an overhang, and then they should have enough to bite onto the uprights as well as the card underneath. So that's what I'm going to be going for. So if I do probably a side first, or should I do a length? Decisions. Right, probably do a length. I can get one of them on just to see what we look like. So I'll just perusing just to get the overhang. As you can see, that will then knock that together quite nicely. So my powers of deduction were right, so it's about half the width. So I'll glue one of them on so that I've got a start, and then I can work off of this now. A little bit of judicious editing there, folks, but we can then come on and start seeing how that's taking shape. See? And then the car's going to sit on something like that, I reckon. So we've got the road surface cut. Now this is a bit of what I use camping mats. They're like a roll of foam, and you can get them online from the Amazon. And I tend to use that because the texture of it, once it's coated and painted, it is a little bit tarmacy texture. And I did it on the Rossi diode that I built years ago, and I've got an update video of that diorama, and I use this surface on the bus dio as well, and it makes a nice tarmac texture. So we're going to hot glue this on top of the foam, so it'll sit slightly proud of the wood frame, but I shall then go round it with a silicone or a decorator's cork and put a bevel on it just to tie the frame to the tarmac. So because it's going to try to lift, I'm going to put some glue right down in the middle first, just to keep the middle pulled down, and then we'll do the edges afterwards, just because it's come off a roll, it wants to pop up in the middle basically. So I want to get that glued in first, and then we can just roll the edges back and get them in place and do the fettling with that. So we'll just lift them up, and we'll do a couple of rows of the diagonals on that, just to start pulling that down like so. Another glue stick in the corner there, and then work our way back under like so, and then do one along the edge on each side like that. Okay, and then we come along the bottom row, push them round, and then that should leave me just a little bit on the right hand corner that if I need to do any stretching I can then pull that corner over and fill the frame like so. Perfect. So I think we can go for a bit of gluage now on that corner. There you go. You will come back up like so. Have you some of that? And just bring it along the edge there just to get that to pull down in there, and then go for a press. And as you can see, it's beginning to get there. And then we do the same on this side now just to get this piece of foam to stick down. See, so we can come along the edge there all the way over and do nice big diagonals now, because it's going to bite down pretty much straight away judging by how the other parts went. Get another glue stick quickly and then pop some in that corner then, like that. Then come along there, all the way over there, along that leading edge, like so. And then that should push all of that down then. And that goes off pretty much instantaneously, this hot glue stuff. So you are working against the clock a little bit, but yeah, it does make a difference. Like so. And I'd honestly think that that's nipped in there quite nicely now. Yeah, get in there. Right. And the car's going to sort of be sitting there and it's going to have the door open, Frankenstein next to it, looking mean and moody and purposeful. So yeah, I can see in my eyes or in my mind where the diode's going to go. I'm leaning towards some kind of corrugated iron buildings and detritus in the corner there, and perhaps some barriers and things. So I feel the 3D printer's going to be busy, so I can get some bits and pieces off of that and get the car where I think it's going to look reasonably presentable. Design the plaques and everything, the nameplates for the build, and see where we go with it. I think so. I think that's ready for a bit of priming, so I'll brush the frame with a bit of primer. I'll do that off camera, and then we'll come back and we'll have the frame primed and probably do something with the top as well. Start looking at priming that. So we've had a quick cup of tea and I'm just finishing priming the frame there, and I've been round with a bit of decorator's cork and beveled the edge there a bit just to try and tie it in a bit. Nothing too special, but just a transition from the wood frame to the polystyrene foam. And I'm just brushing a bit of primer on now. The foam is going to absorb quite a lot of this primer, so it will go patchy, folks. If you're doing this for the first time and you've primed it and you then come back to it and it's gone all patchy, that's quite normal. The only reason I'm putting the paint, or will be putting the paint on the foam, is I want to try and fill some of the pores up with the grey, and then I shall go over it with a bit of PVA. Let that then dry. It's a bit like sizing a wall before you decorate. I'll let the PVA dry and then I'll get the airbrush out and I'll spray over the surface with more grey primer, and then I'll do various shades of greys to get the tarmac look that I'm after. So bear that in mind, folks. The foam will soak up some of the paint. So we'll just have a bit of the old priming, and yeah, it's no real airs and graces to how this is applied. Just whack it on there, give it the beans, give it a good coverage, and then leave it. Let it do its thing. Let the paint be absorbed. Let it do its stuff. You might find that you can get away with a couple of brush coats. It depends on how much gets absorbed into the foam. By doing it with a brush first, it gets in some of the pores, and then the airbrush will pick up anything you didn't miss anyway. Just jack the pressure up on your airbrush a bit so that it blows paint into the pores, and you should be all right. So we can work our way around this, and even at this stage, I was thinking of different shades that would be in the tarmac. Where the car's going to be, there's going to be sort of skid marks, rubber that have been laid down by the other cars as they've rounded the corners, and yeah, they've done a bit of the old drifting on the corners. So there's going to be that kind of markings on the road, and various bits and bobs and oil stains and stuff. So stuff like this, because it's what if and movies and things, you can really go to town on it. A bit like the Gaslands builds that people do. A lot of it's in your mind, isn't it? So we'll just start stippling a lot of the primer on here just to give that a bit of a going over. And work our way along the sides of the frame. And then we can do the same on the back here. Just start slopping the paint in there. And you can already see some of the patching beginning in the corner there on the upper right. That's perfectly normal, folks. It's what I expect to happen. I've done a few of these little dioramas, and the first time it did it, I was like, oh no. But just persevere with it. And we'll just get some work done in the middle bits of the foam. And we'll probably wrap this episode up with this layer of primer, and I shall let it all dry and then give it a coat of PVA, and it's just ordinary white PVA glue, and I shall brush that on and probably do that off camera, just on the foam, so that when we come back in the next episode we can get the airbrush out and we can start painting the road surface a bit better. And hopefully I'll have some of the stuff off the 3D printer as well by then, so we can start looking at what background stuff I've got and all of that. So in the meantime, because we're getting near the end, if you want to subscribe to the channel, hit the subscribe button in the corner. If you ring the bell, you'll get notified of any videos that have been released. And bear in mind, I do a Wednesday weekly show, Bodybuilders at the Bench, at 4:30 till 6:30 UK time. And I do the Sunday Brunch on a Sunday, 12:30 till 2:30 in the afternoon on a Sunday. And that's every week. You can support me on Patreon. It's totally optional. Tiers start at $1 up to $10. There's no obligation, but we do regular patron hangouts on a Wednesday and on a Saturday with me fellow patrons, and it gives me a chance to interact with you guys and show my love for your support and all of that. And you can see me also on the Monday E-Models shows, where I do the show with Fox, Chris and Ted, and obviously on the E-Models channel for the regular builds that I do for the guys up at E-Models. So there's a load for you to be doing. Obviously with lockdown and things, there's more shows that come up impromptu, hence clicking the bell. So I think we'll wrap on this one for today. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you on the next episode. Bye bye for now.